I don't think there's any other path or destination than hyperinflation, but unfortunately along the way we could have a major war. Wednesday, February 7th, 2024, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today we're going to look at hyperinflation. Yes, there has been a lot of question about whether we're going to get inflation or deflation, and of course hyperinflation would be more towards inflation, even though inflation and deflation are really both connected in terms that they destroy the currency, or they destroy the currency. One, hyperinflation destroys the currency and the value of thereof, and deflation destroys currency but not its value. Before I start, though, I'd like to first thank all of you for your support of the channel. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. And yes, just a big thanks again. And I guess I need to speak about what's going on vis-a-vis Tucker Carlson. I think it's really important. And I'm going to touch upon a subject that I don't ever touch upon, because I think it's something private. It's your faith. And a week or two ago, I interviewed Tim Price of Price Value Partners, and he's a fund manager from London. And I had listened to him on another channel. I think it was Palisades Gold Radio. I think that's where it was. And I was, I wasn't too surprised of what he said there. He was talking about things getting biblical, and that it's a fight of good versus evil. And I think that's where we are. And it's not just about money. It's not just about gold and silver, even though that's what I have told people they need to do financially. I think it's really important as well that people are well within themselves. That and I'm not trying to push anything here. And this is where it all boils down to, that I believe that God gives us free will, and we can decide to do good or bad. And it's that simple. And it doesn't mean to say, of course, that I'm perfect, that I've always followed the right way, but it's never too late. And I think that's what Tucker Carlson is about. I could be wrong. You might not agree with me, but again, you're given free will. That's the great thing about it. And let's see what happens in Moscow in terms of the interview. There's one of you guys there. I'm sorry, I forgot your handle on YouTube. You always quote these Bible verses. And the one about the truth is really important. It will set you free. And the other thing that I've always tried to stick with is the motto for the Mises Institute. And what's the Mises Institute, for those of you who don't know about it? Well, I would say is the premier institution of learning for the Austrian School of Economics in the world. It's based in Auburn, Alabama. Their motto is "Tuna sed malis sed contra audentur ito." Of course, that is Latin. My Latin isn't great. I understand some of it. But what it means, and it's what I've tried to keep in mind when I do my videos, it means do not give way to evil, but go bolder against it. So there you go. And fearlessness is important too. You can't be fearful. But of course, you have to try to find out what's true or not, and that's very difficult these days. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I think prayer is something that's good. It reinforces your thoughts and what you need to do. And last night I prayed for Tucker Carlson's safety. And I could be wrong about him, but that's the other thing as well. You need to be forgiving of all people, even people who are not on our side. So enough of that stuff. Some of you might not like that, but free will and all that. So back to the usual topics here, and hyperinflation. Most people think that hyperinflation is just a culmination of inflation, normal cost push inflation that we've had in the last few years, especially for consumer prices. Some people still believe that inflation is caused by war or by high oil prices. Yes, war is usually associated with inflation, but it only happens because governments abuse their monetary power. And what's that monetary power? Unfortunately, under our current system, we have central banks that have the power via legislation to create currency out of thin air, which is something all of us, of course, would dearly want to have. And that's why the currency loses value. It's not the war itself. It's not an oil embargo itself that creates inflation. It's the fact that there's too much currency out there and not enough supply of oil. And we've been, of course, our system has been inflated, and that's what is the whole problem. It's been inflated. The monetary system, the currency supply has been inflated almost ad infinitum since 1971, because there is no limit to how much currency can be created, because it's not based or backed by something real like gold and silver. Some people say it's backed by oil, but oil is not money. Why isn't it money? Well, because unlike gold, it cannot be consumed. It can be consumed, and money should not be consumed because it needs to circulate. And if you consume money, you eventually you run out of money. So oil only backed the dollar in that it created demand for it because people were forced, basically, by the barrel of the might of the American empire, the military might, to use that currency. Of course, they did a deal with the Saudis. So I'm going a little bit off topic here. So that's what happens in a fiat currency system, and that's what inflation is all about. But there comes a point, and I think we are at that point, where you don't just have normal inflation. You get to the point where people realize that this policy of inflation is on purpose, because we're led to believe always that it comes out of the blue. It's because of Putin. It's because of January 6th or anything else, right? But the inflation, but the fact that governments are creating, along with the central banks, too much currency. And there comes a point when people realize that it's policy and that it will never stop. And I think we're very close to it. Why do I think that? Well, because the debt is getting unsustainable, deficit spending as well. Even though Janet Yellen, I think yesterday she said, oh, the deficits are sustainable. We are on a good path to, I don't know what, not a balanced budget, that's for sure. A good path to perdition, I think she probably meant. So what happens then, people realize this policy is never going to end, and they start losing faith and confidence in the currency. And you might not think so because you might be in the US and you're still seeing dollars circulate. Yes, prices have gone up. That's the inflation. But if you look at the major powers of the world that are not aligned with the United States, like China, Russia, Brazil, India, South Africa, and now Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, all those countries and many others are losing faith and confidence in the dollar, and that's why they're starting to trade amongst each other in their own currencies. Are their currencies any better than the dollar? No, but at least it gives them independence and sovereignty, because the United States, of course, has been abusing its privilege of having the major reserve currency by imposing sanctions, by confiscating reserves of other countries, by other things as well, like laws that are, national laws in the US that are imposed extraterritorially on businesses from other countries. So these countries are losing faith and confidence, and they're leaving the dollar. And I said, yes, their currencies are not any better. But one thing that they're doing, though, that I think will protect them is that they've been buying a lot of gold, not just in the last 2 years, like 22, 2023, we've seen record buying of gold by these countries, but also even before. So they have a base of gold, and I think they're prepared for it. So I think we're seeing already the hyperinflation of the dollar internationally, and the next step will be domestically. People, and I think a lot of people already see it, a small minority, but when everyone sees it, it's going to be a rush away from the dollar to anything that has value. That's what hyperinflation is, and it's usually also related to war and to faith and confidence in the institutions that are supposed to keep the state and the country going. And I don't have to tell you, I'm not in the US, but I'm in the UK, and the same thing is happening here. But faith and confidence in our politicians, our institutions, are lower than I've ever seen in my 59 years that I've been on this planet. And I think the same thing can be said for the US, and the same thing could have been said about Germany right after World War I. So they had a war, major war, which they lost. And then the emperor abdicated. Germany was a mess. Bavaria was like thinking of declaring independence. There was a lot of political assassinations, political mayhem. It was the period when Adolf Hitler came to the fore. The beer hall putsch, I think, in Munich took place there. And this was 1923, the year that the hyperinflation culminated in Germany and the Reichsmark collapsed. And it was quick, and that's the only good thing about it. But society was totally chaotic. But before that, they had a war. If they had won, I bet you they probably wouldn't have had the hyperinflation. So what I'm saying here, I don't think there's any other path or destination than hyperinflation. But unfortunately, along the way, we could have a major war. Alex Jones thinks that Tucker Carlson could save the world from World War III. What do I think about that? It's possible, even though I can't predict things. I can try to see what might happen. And as for Alex Jones, I'm glad that I started listening to him. even when his show was not called InfoWars. Did you know that it was called The Jones Report? That's how long I've been following him. And it's interesting that I was watching following the 2008 presidential campaign in the US. I was following the Republican primaries only because Ron Paul was doing really well. And I think Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson were met somewhere, I don't know, Iowa or I don't remember which state exactly. And they were talking to each other outside this polling station. And Tucker Carlson was not a fan of Alex Jones back then. I can tell you that. He kind of poo-pooed him and said, like he's a kook. But now they're best of friends. So that's what I'm trying to say. You can always forgive people. Of course, either possibilities, war and then hyperinflation, or hyperinflation without war would be really chaotic. And that's why I think it's more important than ever to be well spiritually. And it's not just about having gold and silver. That's what I wanted to say today. And with that, let's quickly look at where the markets are then. It's 8:23 a.m. here in London. London, England, not Ontario. We got gold at 2,034. It's down just over $2. High's been 37, the low 32. So very narrow range overnight, not much going on. Silver's a little weaker. It's down 16 cents, 22.26. Low's been 23 and the high 47. And to the stock market, and yes, the small banks are in trouble. It looks like New York Community Bank, that was down about, let's see, 22% yesterday. So, for example, the stock has come from above $10 on the 30th of January, and now we're at $4.20. It got down to $4 yesterday during the day. It rebounded a little bit on the close. And what do I think is going to happen there? Well, I think there will be a combination of things. They're going to allow, I think, a lot of these banks, smaller banks, to go under. And the likes of JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, or Shitty Bank, they will take over all their business, I think. And the Treasury will find a way, along with the Fed, to make depositors whole, or to pad up the banks that take over them. Again, those who have over 250,000 of those banks, I think they should be worried, because I don't think the Treasury is prepared to do what they did with Silicon Valley Bank, in where they bailed out even depositors with over 250,000. So keep that in mind. So there's that too there. But what that does, banking troubles will make the central bank provide even more liquidity. And that's the way to hyperinflation anyway. So the stock market overnight is fairly steady. The Dow is up 18 points. NASDAQ is down 19. S&P down 2. Currencies as well, they're not really doing that much. Yeah, the pound is up slightly here, up 0.2, 126.19. The other currencies are pretty much unchanged. Let's look at the Aussie dollar. Aussie dollars as well is unchanged, 65.20. Dollar is unchanged versus the Canadian dollar, and the Kiwi dollar as well is unchanged. Someone asked me the other day, why are some FX pairs quoted in terms of, let's say, Aussie dollar. Like when I quote the Aussie dollars, how many dollars you get for it, and why are others quoted in terms of US dollars? Like with $1, how many Brazilian reais you get, or how many Swiss francs you get. Well, it's just custom and tradition. That's the way they quote. What about the commodities? Well, WTI crude is up slightly here at 73.50, and Brent as well is up 0.1%, 78.65. Platinum is down slightly, about $7, trading around 900. So platinum still not being able to make any progress here. High grade copper is unchanged at 380. And last but not least, the treasury market or the bond market and interest rates. Well, the 10-year yield came off yesterday a little bit. It's back up overnight, up 2 basis points. It's trading around 4.12. The 2-year is unchanged at 4.4. So there you go. With that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.